This is Alamo Anthem, where we, the overtaxed, remember our liberty. Direct from the forgotten countryside outside of Alamo City, San Antonio.
Well, we got our letters from the Medina County Tax Assessor's Office. Did you guys get yours?
Yeah.
Yeah? I can tell by the Nextdoor app that it's ruffling some feathers. This guy, James Carignan, posted, "My house taxes have doubled due to the bond passage for the new schools and improvements." So he's specifically referring to, I believe, the Medina Valley bond because he's in Castroville.
Yeah.
You should see how many comments are on this thread.
Yeah, I just looked and there were 69.
My gosh. Yeah, I can tell he's upset about it. And then you have people saying, go file for a homestead exemption. And he's like, I already did. And then there was someone that said, you need to protest it. And he's like, how do I do that? And
Did he say that?
yeah, this guy, Kevin Williams, says, you can protest the taxes. You can hire a firm to protest. Or if what the county has your appraisal at is more than what you have paid, you can also show them what you paid if it was a very recent purchase. And I guess that's true. If you just bought your house, you probably could do that. But usually they give you 30 days after they send out that letter in April to file a claim to protest. And then after that, that's it, right?
Yeah.
You only get that little one window. Yeah, this one, Tom Miller says, file a protest with the county. It's not that difficult, and you have a good chance of getting your evaluation reduced. But it's too late to do that for this year. So I feel bad for him.
How many people on Nextdoor do you think work for the city?
I'm surprised.
know.
I wonder how many people believe that you have a good chance at having it reduced in any way that actually matters.
Is it
You
just
know?
like a few bucks?
Yeah, I mean, I think maybe a couple years ago that might have been the case, but in my recent experience, they don't at all.
Well, we
Unless
did the
you
math
can show
on yours.
serious damage, and then they'll be like, okay, I'll take a little bit off. But it's like, okay.
It's nickels and cents, really. I mean, and then even the 100,000 homestead exemption increase or whatever, the 40 to 100,000, the new law. We did your house, remember? It was like $33.
Yeah,
that you
we
saved.
$33 a month. Thanks, Governor Abbott.
Yay, the biggest home.
The biggest property tax cut in history.
Yeah. This Elizabeth Parker says, mine dropped because of the $100,000 homestead exemption from last year. And then Travis Ferris replies, it helped. It definitely helped. We bought our house in January. So of course the county used that as an opportunity to jack our valuation. Yeah. Feel bad. That was not a good year to buy. That's a shout out to James Carignan. I hope I'm saying that right.
Probably
How would
not.
you say that?
Carignan?
Carignan. James Carignan. Shout out to you, man. We feel you. Mine has gone up significantly. I bought my house in 2016 in Castroville, and I was looking back at the taxes, and it went from $1,500 a year, $7,000 a year, something like that.
It was really $1,500 when
Something
you bought
like
it?
that. It was really low. I was
That was
surprised
amazing.
because it was in 2016. It's almost been 10 years, you know?
Did you buy it from somebody old? Do you know?
Oh, you know what it was? That's right. We bought it from a disabled vet. That's why.
Oh, I see.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
That's probably why. Well, we had it as our homestead exemption. Now it's a rental, so now it's way up.
Right. Yep.
So high up that they almost foreclosed on you because you
oh,
weren't paying
yeah.
it.
That's right. I had to go pay the difference because we moved our homestead exemption to our house in Divine. But,
Needless to say, James, you will not find more sympathetic people than us. on
True
this
that,
topic.
man. And we would love to have you on. I hope you listen and tune in. And you guys, we really want to hear back from our viewers. We will tell you the email shortly. What do you got for us, Joe?
I also wanted to mention something from Nextdoor. Well, sort of from Nextdoor. Just a really quick shout out. Eller's Auto moved from Castroville, and it's now between Dunley and Castroville. And we like that business. And so I just want to let people know that if they can't find it in Castroville, that it's just on 90, the north side of 90, just between Dunley and Castroville.
Oh,
So that's if you get anybody looking for a car mechanic. They do a good job and they're really fair. They get back to you with exactly what they're going to charge you, and they're quick. So
Yeah, I was really impressed last time because I brought them a car that wasn't running on a trailer that doesn't really have a very good ramp. And so it was this whole debacle of like trying to get it off. But they saw me struggling with the trailer, trying to find a good place. And they came out and, they helped me and got it all figured out, and they were really good about it and just really helpful. And to me, I think that's like one of the most important things is just, it's like problem solving with you and being helpful. And they've been really good about it. If I say I want to buy an aftermarket part, or I want to buy this part like from this place, and bring it to them, they'll put it in. And anyway, so we like their service.
yeah. Well, thanks for telling us, because I actually have something that I need to go get looked at, so maybe I'll check them out. All right, well, you wanted to talk about Texit.
Yeah. First of all, Texit refers to Texas exit from the Union, or I guess it's the Texas nationalist movement, right? Is that what the T&M? Yeah, they're the ones that are really pushing it. And so Texit, that's kind of like Brexit, right? When they left the EU.
What are your thoughts on it?
I do have one thought. I guess though, and I haven't like been reading stuff about it or anything. So this is just a very sort of zoomed out, uninformed question I guess I have on it. And that is just, I wonder if the Texas state government would be any better. I would hope so. And I think that more competition between governments, so they have to treat their citizens a little bit better if they want them as taxpayers, is always going to be good. But yeah, I mean, they seem just like, what's the saying about tigers and stripes?
That they don't change them?
Yeah. So just like any other government, anything that they can get you, get from you, they will. And I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
No, I hear you. And I think, but it's to me, it's one of those things where it's like, we just have no idea, because over the years, the states have ceded all of their sovereignty to the federal government for, a couple hundred years now. Well, I guess Texas was kind of a late adopter into the Union. But so it's to me, it's like hard to know, because they're going to have to answer all the questions of, okay, this is what the federal government says to do now. Are we going to keep them that way? Or are we going to do things a little bit different? And I mean, I share the similar concerns. I think one thing just right out the gate that we could have a pretty good idea of is, I think that immediately the border would become more closed.
Yeah, that was one of the things that I thought was a pro. It would cut out the federal government, from the border issue, which would allow us to do what we wanted to do with the border.
Right.
Which would benefit Texans.
Here's another, I mean, I guess this thought isn't very well organized, but I always wonder if, let's say, any state separated from the Union in this, what I think is probably a fantasy world, then what happens because of the United States military? Like,
oh, I have the answer to that.
Okay.
Let me find it.
This ought to be rich.
No, it has like
They invade.
I mean, it seems like they could bully anybody.
I'm trying to find it on their website. I remember reading it.
Anybody?
I'm sure they would never.
They would never.
But
They have
threat.
they have like their own website, the Texas National Movement. I'm trying to find it, but I remember reading back here, and I will find it in just a second. They have like frequently asked questions, and one of the frequently asked questions is about the military.
Yeah.
So,
well, one thing that I would say about the military is, it is a very interesting question, because my understanding of, with the Civil War, is that the South seceded, and then they said, okay, we're not in this country anymore. And then the North continued to go to and supply military bases that were in the South, different forts, or the federal government, I should say. And that is kind of what started the conflict, or what exacerbated it into a hot conflict. And so my automatic thought has always been like, well, I mean, San Antonio is military city, right? That's what they call it. Got all these bases. But then I was thinking, well, the U.S. has bases all over the world. You know, it's not like they only have military bases in, in the United States. And so it seems like it could be something that'd be like, well, we'll just lease this land to you, and you could have a base here, and we'll continue to, be employed, but we'd be foreign nationals instead of citizens and that sort of thing. And so, I mean, it seems like you could work anything out in like today's age, as long as everybody was willing to work it out, which is the big question.
Don't you think that the moment, though, that the federal government lost all of the Texas citizens' taxes, that then the Texas government would be there ready to receive that same amount of taxes just straight into their own hands?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean,
that seems really infuriating to me. I don't know if it makes me feel like it would be better or just an added measure of...
Well, that's the importance of kind of working things out ahead of time, right? Like, well, how is this going to work? Like, I think it would be a mistake, or it would at least be kind of a wild card if we were to be like, we secede, and then, okay, now let's figure things out, instead of having it all lined up ahead of time.
Right, because I'm sure if this were ever to actually take place, then the Texas government ahead of time would create every single program that the federal government already has, like a Social Security type program and stuff like that. Because they're like, okay, now you're a part of this. And then, I guess now that I think, I'm just thinking it through out loud right here.
Sure.
But like, then it would probably be really hard to get enough people's support, because then the U.S. government would be like, okay, well, you're not citizens, so you don't get your Social Security. Like for all the citizens who are like in their 50s,
right,
approaching that age and stuff like that. I'm sure it would just, you know what I mean?
Well, I mean, there's ways, I feel like there would be ways to, like I said, so for instance, if you said, well, we're going to lease all of this land that the U.S. military is using, and so then we'll say we're going to create a fund directly from the proceeds from that to ensure Social Security payments to seniors or whatever. Like, and then also, like you said, there's going to be all those taxes on the table. So then it's like, okay, well, Texas can keep the Social Security Ponzi scheme alive just as well as the federal government can, as long as they get those tax receipts. So
the more we talk about this, the more I hate it.
The more you hate Texas secession?
The idea of it.
Okay.
Why?
I think I'd prefer the idea of an enemy that's more foreign and far away than one right here.
Really?
Here's my...
Even though it's not like rational, I just don't like hating my neighbors, I guess, I mean, I don't hate my neighbors, but I mean my figurative Texas congressional neighbors, I don't know.
I mean, I feel like that's kind of that's the thing about the government being far away, is that it could be like, well, it's out of our hands, and I think that's why state legislatures continuously give up power to the federal government, because then they can point to someone else and say, well, it's not our fault, they did it. And it's the same thing with the legislature and in the federal government with the executive branch, where they say, oh, we want to create this bureau that's going to regulate the environment. So go and do that, executive branch. And then the executive branch is like, okay. And so then they create this bureau. And then they
Oceana in 1984.
Yeah. Then they could just do whatever they want and just keep on piling the rules on higher. And they said, oh, Congress told us to do it. Congress told us to do it. And so then Congress is like, well, we empowered them to create this bureau, but, it's the executive branch. They're the ones that are doing it.
Here's what I think
perfect
would happen. There's a possibility. That is a pro. Okay. The second it passes, you'd get an exodus of a lot of people and an incoming of a lot of people. So, don't you think?
Yeah, between Texas and the other states.
Yeah, because a lot of people would be against it, and they'd be like, I am not living with a bunch of conservative, Bible-toting, gun-right, activist. I'm
Texas
out of here.
nationalist.
So they would leave immediately. And then you get a lot of people like, I really want to live with gun-toting Bible, thumping.
They want the culture of the United States without the full kind of military-industrial complex, or whatever problems that you have with the federal government. You would get, you'd still be like among people that are your people, like Americans, kind of.
Well, more libertarian-minded. They value the Constitution, they value First Amendment, they value the Second Amendment, those kind of religion, those kind of things.
But even if it wasn't like, even politically, there's a culture in the United States. Like, it's different than other countries, regardless of what somebody's politics are. And so it's like, oh, I could still live in the I could still live among this culture, but
in a different country.
But it's in a different country. Yeah. It's kind of interesting, right? Yeah. It's like going to the New World from England.
Yeah.
Right?
That's why. Okay. So that's that. And then secondly, a new opportunity of like starting over.
Yeah.
On their Instagram page, the Texas National Movement said, federal red tape is stifling Texas innovation. And I thought that is a good point. Like you mentioned cutting out the EPA, cutting out the, what were the other things?
USDA,
the FDA,
I don't know.
You name it.
Like, every combination of letters you can think of.
The CIA. I'm sure there would be another CIA.
IRS.
No. IRS, I'm sure there'd be another one
I'm
of
sure
those.
the CIA would still be.
I think their first order of business, government.
You practically welcome the CIA.
I'm sure the CIA is behind this, to be honest.
I mean, we know that they have been to Dallas before.
Oh, Joe, you conspiracy theorist.
Who was that, Kennedy?
Yeah.
Is that where oh, okay.
You're going there, huh, Joe?
I'm going. Yeah, we can talk about that later. What were you just saying? Oh, the EPA, blah, blah, blah.
Just all the red tape, the big government program, like the bureaucracy of the that's the stuff that's not in the Constitution.
Yeah. Well, and I'm not a farmer. We know a couple farmers. But I would think that the USDA just really has their nose in the business of Texas. I would think.
Totally.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yep.
Speaking of which, we got to get Galen, our farmer friend, on the show. I think we need to do that sooner than later.
Pura Vida Farms.
Yeah.
Right?
Pura.
Pura Vida.
Pura Vida.
Pura Vida Farms.
No, it just sounds like we're making fun of it.
No, she's the best.
We love their farm.
She's done an amazing job with that farm. It's an all organic, non-GMO farm, which she works very hard to keep up. And her milk is very good.
It is very good. We're going to get some this month.
Yeah. Are you?
Yeah, we're going to go milk our cows.
Back to TM, Texas National Movement. So that part I do like. I like the fact that we have an opportunity. If we would have to have really strong leadership that would be very firm and not allowing big government. We would have to have a huge surplus of libertarians move in.
Yeah. Do you know what? Oh,
it would have to start out the most fundamental part of all of it, and everyone would have to understand this, is we're not making any more organizations.
Yeah.
No more, none, no auxiliary, anything.
Makes you wonder, what would education be like? There would be no Department of Education. So...
Is there not also a Texas Department of Education? There must be.
I don't know.
It would just be in charge. Let me see. I'm going to Google it right now.
So to me, it's there was I think this is from a comedy bit. I think it may have been Dave Smith, but he's talking about how in the 2014 election that there was that it was, it was between Hillary and Trump, right? And it was kind of this thing where it's well, you can have Hillary Clinton and everybody knows what you're getting there, right? And then, or you can have what's in the box with Trump. And because it was kind of a mystery, right? He wasn't a politician before. Though if you do go back in his interviews, he was pretty consistent, I would say, of the things that he said that he wanted to do. But and everybody was just let's go with what's in the box because we don't want Hillary. We know what that is. And I kind of feel like it's the same where it's we know what we get with the federal government. We've been living in it for a long time. And it's kind of a mystery, what would happen if we seceded. But
I think the fact that they were willing to do that, to go with what's in the box, says really good things about the general mental health of the citizenry. You know?
Or the
because the
opposite.
alternative, no, because the alternative is like, no, let me just stick with this abusive boyfriend. At least I know who they are and it's familiar
Sure.
to me.
Yeah,
you
they're
know?
more based, right? They have that basis of
Right. I mean,
confidence.
I know he murders his girlfriends sometimes, you know, but, you
Who's
know,
that?
the
Trump?
abusive boyfriend who is Hillary Clinton.
Hillary Clinton.
Yeah, you know,
Oh, yeah.
but he probably won't murder me.
Why are you calling
know?
her him?
What difference does it
Oh,
make?
shit.
It's the analogy.
You weren't paying attention.
I wasn't paying attention. I found this article on Zero Hedge. The headline is Texit Progress Secession Question Expecting to Appear on 2024 Primary Ballot by Tyler Durden. And one of the things I hadn't even thought of.
Wait. Let's just pause for a second. Tyler Durden is a pen name for the guy that writes on Zero Hedge. That's all.
Okay.
Yeah. Because it's from a movie. It's
Well, what do
it's
I have to say? Do I have to? I mean, it's still what it says.
It's Emily laughed and she looked at me funny, like, what's going on with that?
Oh.
It's just that you said it like seriously, like
Well, because I don't know that.
it's
I
like,
didn't know that.
and this is by Donald Duck. You know what I mean?
Michelle's never heard of Donald Duck. Just keep going.
I have too. I grew up with Donald Duck.
But you haven't heard of Tyler Durden.
That I have not heard of. Who is he?
He's a character from Fight Club, the movie.
How have I not seen that movie?
Oh man.
Oh, I know how.
You were just a little bit too old when it came out.
All right, here's the pull quote from that article. It says, and something I not thought of, which is what the
And you think of
ramifications.
everything.
Oh yeah, you know me. The ramifications to the rest of the country if it happened. Listen to this quote: If Texas eventually withdraws from the union, other states will suddenly realize they need to follow. If Texas announces a future independence date, red states will have a choice to make. Stay in a union dominated by blue states or follow Texas's lead. Since a Republican can't win a presidential election without Texas electoral votes, the red states will have to follow Texas to avoid the tyranny, perversion, and bankruptcy that incompetent democratic rule will bring to the remainder of the U.S., even if these states haven't favored secession until presented with this dilemma.
I did think about the fact that a federal election couldn't be won without Texas.
Right.
And I didn't know what to think about that.
Okay, so I think that's a fallacy. It's the same fallacy of when they say that demographics are destiny, right? Say, oh, well, this group of people that we identify by the color of their skin, they vote Democrat. And so the more of these people come into the country, the more it will just be Democrat forever. But then it's like, you know, how much of the black vote did Trump gain in the last? It's like things change.
He got
is all I'm
record
saying.
numbers.
Yeah, record numbers. And then it's the same with like states turning purple or flipping or whatever. Is that deep blue states and deep red states? They are that way because most of the people that are the opposite political affiliation as the state goes, they just don't vote. They're like, well, what's the point? You know, Idaho's going to go red. I'm not going to vote. Or if they vote, it's like symbolic. You know what I mean? And so it's like, it's hard to know exactly what's going to happen in the future. You can't just like lay down blanket. Though I do agree that it's compelling, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, imagine if California was no longer in the union. You know? What
Right.
would that do to the Democrat Party?
Right.
In as far as federal government goes.
Well, and what you might see in California is like maybe there would be a movement to split the state up or something. Well, I guess that would
if
be
they weren't a part of the union, if
Yeah.
they left,
right.
then the
So
Democrats
just go
would have a
red,
weakness.
blue, red, blue,
It
red,
would.
blue.
I can't help but think about how much richer the rest of the United States would be because of all the federal money that goes back to California all the time. That would
Yeah.
really be amazing.
They produce a lot of money too. Like there are places that you can go to see like the net flow of money between like from states.
Yeah.
And it goes to the rest of the country or it stays there?
It goes to the rest of the world.
I'm just saying like if you just say like
Besides the rest of the world,
Yeah.
though.
The movies go to the rest of the world. The agriculture goes to the rest of the world.
right. Well, I mean that's funny because
The
it's like
freedom goes to the rest of the world.
when Trump won,
Taxes go to the rest.
it might be the time for it because when Trump won in 2014,
You mean 2020?
what?
2016.
2016. I keep on saying 2014. I think I'm thinking
You
of
said 2019.
No, I said 2014 first.
All right, 2030. I think I said 2014 earlier
You did.
Don't
Listen to Emily.
Yeah.
Just go.
But it was 2016, the 2016 election. What was I talking about? Oh, just
Trump won the 2017
Right.
election. Keep going.
Well, he's inaugurated in 2017. That's for sure. That's when like everyone in California was like, we should break away from it's not my president, you know.
Yeah.
So it's like you get the perfect storm of Texas if Trump won the election, and then Texas seceded, and then California is like, what? I'm not gonna be. Though they would have hope that they would win the next election if Texas seceded.
Yeah.
So,
That's right.
Maybe California will go first. And then
Maybe
Texas.
California will fund Texit.
Yeah, I just like that we're talking about it, and so this is kind of the point that the guy, president of TNM, which is the Texas National Movement or Nationalist Movement, said, and he said, because one of the criticisms they get is like, why are you even talking about this? Nobody wants it. Like, so just shut up about it already, type of a thing. Like, stop bringing it up. And he said, placing the question on the ballot brings clarity. If, as our detractors say, this is a fringe issue that no one supports, then they should have no resistance to this question being asked of Republican voters. In fact, they should be some of the strongest supporters. If what they say is true, then the results will show that fact, and Texas will be a dead issue in the party for a generation. So that was TNM. The president is Daniel Miller.
Yeah.
So, and then he said, let the people of Texas have their say. If no one believes in it, then you can shut me up. Then you get to shut me up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Emily has an issue with it, and we were kind of talking about it. And I know why you have an issue, but do you want to talk about what your biggest problem is with
Well,
it?
I don't know what you're getting at, but I have another thought. that
Okay, I'll come back to
I don't know
it.
what you're talking about.
But we talked about it
Don't
earlier.
put words in my mouth.
The thought I was just having is so for as long as I can remember, because we used to live in Washington State, they've had this fight between the west side of the Cascades, which is like a very relatively smaller sliver of Washington. Is it a sliver? Am I exaggerating when I say it's a sliver? What is it, like a
Western
fifth?
Washington?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't
Maybe-
know. It's maybe a fifth. or something
Okay,
like
so
that,
like
by
a
land.
fifth of the state dominated by, it's just the Seattle area basically, right? Is one part, and then like everyone on the east side of the Cascades wants to be another part. Is this accurate what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's always been my
yeah.
impression.
Yeah, there's
Between
like
Western and Eastern Washington.
right. There's been talk in the past of splitting it into two states because it really because the Cascade Mountains runs down the middle ish, and it's like
But the Cascades are really close to the Puget Sound, so
Yeah.
in terms of actual geography, the
Yeah.
area that dominates the entire state isn't very big.
right,
And so the Eastern Washingtonians always feel bullied and pushed around
right,
by Seattle.
yeah.
With all their policies and stuff like that.
And what happens is that they'll pass statewide taxes to fund things in Seattle. So they're going to put in a new highway, so everybody has to pay, a tax, or they're going to put in a new stadium, and so everybody gets a fast food tax and that sort of thing.
Right. But one thing that you brought up, Joe, a few minutes ago was how, in terms of public schools in Washington, the way that they get their funding from the state, it's all equal. So
Wait. I believe what it is just about teacher pay.
just teachers? What about administrators?
That's a good question.
Okay. Well, there's something that's made equal in the school system throughout the entire state, no matter whether you're in King County or you're over in one of those counties in like near the Tri-Cities or something. And
Kittitas?
yeah, I don't know. Is that over there or is
Yeah.
that south
No, it's over there.
or north? Anyway, and so I was thinking, because when people seem really passionate about something and it's like year after year and it seems like it's picking up, in popularity, like that type of issue, you wonder why. Why does it never happen then? And when you said that, that's what came to mind for me. It was like, I thought, oh, teachers union, same, like evened out pay, no matter what county you're in. That's why it doesn't happen. Like,
Right.
I feel like we finally found the mystery's been, unlocked.
Yeah. Well,
right?
I'm sure multiple things like that.
Right,
know?
but
I mean,
it's that there's
be,
enough people who benefit from some circulated, socialist system, right, of money on the eastern side, and that's why they never actually break off.
Let me give you another example of that. So a lot of times you'll see different unions, labor unions, they will really get behind increasing the minimum wage. And it's like, well, why do they want to do that? It's like, oh, because we just care about workers, even if they're not in our union. We want everybody to have a fair wage. Well, what it really is that a lot of contracts, the pay is based partially on some improvement on the minimum wage. So if the minimum wage goes up, automatically the people in the union will get a similar raise from it, because it's just we're going to pay at least $15 more than the minimum wage or something like that.
You're saying no matter how much money they already are getting in their salaries, it's going to go up?
There's some part of the calculation is based on the minimum wage. And
for people in unions.
For people in unions.
Oh, interesting.
And so if the minimum wage goes up, then their pay goes up as well. And so it's like, I don't see why if there's a state minimum wage, they're going to want to push that up, starting in King County or whatever.
Okay.
So.
Well, back to T&M. When Emily and I were discussing this, she said, I have some reservations about it. And I started thinking about what mine were. And mine go back to not trusting, the loss of trust that I have for Texas leadership. And just these last few years with an increase of property taxes, they have not shown very good leadership. I mean, this bill that they just passed recently in November wasn't enough, in my opinion. And I expected more from a conservative, so-called quote-unquote conservative state to do something to offset the property taxes. They have more than enough money. And so if they're going to exit the United States, we would have to have a really good leader. Someone like Elon Musk, or somebody who has principle, because you hope that someone, I've learned this the hard way, even though someone's conservative, I don't know very many libertarian leaders, but conservative leaders, they can be sellouts. They can be sellouts. And in this case with Texit, I would not want to be in a country with a bunch of rhino Republican good old boys with what they've shown me in the last almost 10 years I've lived here. It hasn't been impressive at all.
I keep thinking more about this, how a tiger doesn't change its stripes analogy for government, and how it's like asking the government to not keep on taking more from you. It would be like asking, like a predator, like a tiger.
Please don't eat me.
Yeah. Can you just, lay off a little? Just, can you fast once a week? Eat one less deer a week?
I made you
could
the
you do
salad. Maybe you could have that.
Maybe you should start eating bugs,
Yeah. Right.
Better for you anyway, supposedly.
Well, and I know
Look at the bear. Bear eats bugs.
Bears.
They eat yellow jackets.
Bugs.
Oh, good.
Beetles.
And berries.
Berries.
That's why they're called berries.
Well, so people might ask, well,
Little known fact.
what would be the solution to the property tax debacle? You want to know what it is?
Yeah.
It's already written for us.
Enlighten.
Utah tax system, their property tax system. It's the most superior, in my opinion.
Well, that you know of, right?
Well, so far,
You're
here's an
saying
article.
it's the best solution in the scenario that we still don't actually have private property rights. Because as long as there is a property tax, we don't have private property.
It's true.
Right.
Yeah. What Emily means is that no matter what, if you have your house paid off, you're always going to have to pay taxes, which is like paying rent forever to the government, right?
Right.
Right.
It's not really yours. Because if you don't pay it, you get kicked off.
Yeah, I would rather pay the same in taxes, but have it be assessed in different ways than to have it tied to my property.
Right. And they do it because that's where you have almost 100% of the time. That's your biggest asset.
Yeah. And
so they know that you're going to do anything to protect it. And so that's the easiest way to bully people.
And you have, it's a way to get taxes from everybody everybody, like nobody can avoid, you have to live somewhere. And if you live somewhere, then you're paying property tax. Even if you're renting, I mean,
I disagree.
Your landlord is just passing that cost on to you, or at least partially. It goes up and down, but
it's unfair because you could put like 500 people in a house. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, you'd be paying taxes, but it's like, I think the best way,
but you're
the
still
best
paying
tax
it.
system is sales tax. Everybody pays the same. It hurts the poor disproportionately, but at least everyone pays the same
sales
amount.
tax better than income tax?
Yeah, I do.
How come?
Go ahead. I have reasons, but go ahead.
Why do I like sales tax better than income tax? Because everyone buys stuff.
See, my reason is the opposite, which is because you can choose not to buy stuff. Like,
that's right.
You could be like,
well, you could choose to just work less and earn less money.
yeah, that's true.
But that's dumb.
But what I'm saying is that, like, let's say, like, if you fall on hard times, right, or if you want to save up for something, then you could just consume less, you know, but you can't live somewhere less, you know, like you can't tighten your belt when it comes to your property taxes.
You could burn down part of your house.
Yeah, it's true.
You could still be paying property tax no matter what.
But you'll pay less.
Yeah, you can graffiti it up.
Nice.
Maybe knock out a couple exterior
Try
walls.
explaining
just
that
demo
to protest.
part of it.
I don't even think you would. I think they'd be like, well, that's what it was last
No,
year.
they would have to.
They would.
They would.
They would, yeah. For that.
Found that one
That's
thing.
fair.
Just knock out a couple of the supports under your house. You know,
I'd like
give
to
it a nice
see-
little tilt.
I mean, I wouldn't, because things would have to be so bad for anything like that to ever happen. But in my mind, I think I would like to see the day when people go in. I guess someone just has to write a story about it. It has to be fantasy. But people go into their to protest their property taxes, and they're like, "Well, I've gotten rid of the kitchen, and I did the other things that you said I had to do in order for me to be able to afford what you're making me pay. But I'm just down to all we have is one toilet and one room in our house. Like, do we really, it's something where people are piece by piece destroying their own property in order to be able to have somewhere where they get to be."
It's like, why don't you go just live in a bunker and eat bugs? Like,
I wonder how that's how the cave houses become popular. You know, there's cave houses in New Mexico and Arizona and places like that.
Spain.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that is like a thing, right? So we're joking about making your house look dumpy in order to avoid taxes, or like, actually, we're not saying to make it look that way. We're saying to actually make it dumpy.
Actually be that way through and through.
But it's like that goes into the calculus of people if they're deciding, like, well, do I want to do landscaping? Do I want to make this nice? Last time I did it, they raised my taxes, so I'm just not going to do that anymore. And so you get less beautiful housing, you know?
Which I think is ironically one of the only things that is positive about it. Because sometimes I think about other places where the property taxes are pretty low. Like, Michelle, you brought up Utah.
Yeah.
They have relatively low property taxes compared to other places. And they are in a constant race against their neighbors, like just classically trying to keep up with the Joneses. And it is one of my favorite things about Texas. And it's funny because that's probably the thing that is most people's least favorite thing about Texas, is when you come, it just looks kind of dumpy, when you're used to seeing other states where they don't have these terrible property taxes. Or another example, if you look at houses, you just go on Redfin or Zillow and look at houses in like Savannah, Georgia, every house is beautiful. The property taxes are so low, because they can afford to make things beautiful.
And they don't get punished if they do.
Right.
Yeah. Well, here's this article from the American Legislative Exchange Council, and it says Utah's Truth-in-Taxation for Property Taxes by Howard Stevenson, and it was on July 23rd, 2019. So this is a relatively old article, but I think it makes a good point. It says, Truth-in-Taxation is Utah's most taxpayer-friendly law. In some ways, it's even better than California's Proposition 13. The measure was enacted in 1985 at the request of the Utah Taxpayers Association and the tax commissioner, Gary Cornea, who worked with the Association of Counties to provide a solution to taxpayer unrest from ever-increasing property taxes. While Truth-in-Taxation does technically limit property taxes, it makes local elected officials think twice about increasing property tax rates, because they They know all citizens will be notified of the increase and its potential impact on their property. They also know that they will have to hold a broadly advertised public hearing where citizens can sound off about the proposed tax hike. It also is a revenue-driven system, not a rate-driven system. So generally, as valuations of existing property increase from county assessors' annual adjustments of taxable property values to keep pace with the market values, property rates decrease. That's what makes it such a great system.
Yeah, that's great.
So in other words, it's not based off of the rate. Well, like, so as the market goes up and your price of houses go up, the rates go down to even out the revenue. They're not in it to get profit. They're there just to get, you know, what they need to get to use the budget. And so I'm impressed because I know Utah is one of the, especially Utah County, is one of the highest per capita child. Right. So has a lot of children that they have to educate. And they managed to keep the property taxes low in spite of that. This Truth-in-Taxation law popped up because of the unrest, as a result of unrest from ever-increasing property taxes back in the 80s.
I'm pretty sure that Connor Boyak helped get that legislation passed.
And for those of us who don't know who Connor Boyak is...
Connor Boyak is a libertarian in Utah, from Utah, and he writes
Tuttle Twin books.
Yep, he writes like children's books to help teach free market principles and stuff like that to kids, and they're doing a great job of just trying to get like this. I mean, and I think he's working on curriculum and stuff like that, but just to get these ideas spread, you know, and even into public schools. I know I saw one article where he did get these books into a school in Texas. Actually, I was really surprised. So that's exciting. Yeah. But yeah, he just spreads.
They also just on their website like
liberty ideas. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, they have you know, bills that they're trying to get passed in the legislature, and so they do a lot of kind of like advocacy. They write legislation and try to get it passed, and I think it's great, especially stuff like that where you can kind of, and I know the Libertarian Party has done this too, where they kind of like they'll get something passed in the state, and then they're like, okay, this is the model, and you can, you know, take this to your state now and try different things. And I think, to me, that's kind of the opportunity of Texit, is to say, let's look at every single state, let's see how they're doing it, and let's see if, because it will be an opportunity to just like do things a little bit differently.
Well, remember when the founders established the United States, they went through and read all the democracies and republics from the past and what they did right and then what they did wrong. And they weeded out the things they did wrong and tried to establish a country with all the good from all the previous civilizations. So we would do the same thing.
That is an incredible amount of work and dedication.
It is. But I think Connor Boyak might be able to
come together to do it.
Connor Boyak may be the guy. I just went to his website when you said that, and this is what he says. He says, I'm the author of 42 books, including the popular Tuttle Twins series. I founded and am president of Libertas Institute, a high-impact think tank. I'm an executive producer of the Tuttle Twins show. I'm an investor in a few high-impact startups. I'm an outlaw beekeeper. Contraband honey tastes better. I'm addicted to
Wait, pause right there. I want to say something. Actually, I'll come back to it. Keep going.
I'm addicted to changing the world for the better. Let's bring him here in Texas, shall we?
Yeah.
He said liberty won't defend itself. So
we need to be Connor Boyak here.
Yeah, we need to bring him, Elon Musk, who's already here. All the greats, bring him here.
No, I'm saying like we need to replicate.
Oh.
Because I just want to say something about the contraband honey thing before I forget. I read an article the other day that talked about a study that had been done where they found that, at least in the stuff that they've tested, 70% of store-bought honey is fake.
How?
Fake or adulterated.
Fake or adulterated. They're probably using corn syrup and other things.
You mean they committed adultery to get that honey? What does adulterated mean?
Well, you've heard of like honey pots, right?
Oh.
Honey from China.
Gross. Epstein honey. So, have you guys been hearing these rumors about The Office coming back.
The show The Office?
Yeah.
No.
Were you a fan?
Of course.
I loved The Office. Who's your favorite character on that show?
I mean, other than Jim.
Yeah. Jim was your favorite.
I mean, how can he be anyone's not favorite?
Mine was Dwight by far.
Yeah,
I
that's
love
true.
Dwight. In fact, I always thought,
Jim is Jerry and Dwight is Kramer.
yeah, maybe.
Except that Kramer's more likable than
Yeah.
Dwight. But yeah.
It's more like Newman. Except
Yeah,
that
he's
it's
like a
if-
combination of George, Newman, and Dwight, or Kramer.
Everything annoying put into
Yeah,
Dwight.
but I
Yeah.
love Dwight because everything about it makes me laugh so hard. But I thought it was brilliantly written, and he could have almost started his own show. Like, I think he would have been smart if he would have signed on for like Dwight Schrute Farms, like as
Right. Yeah.
you know how they did Cheers
You still need
and
it.
then Frasier.
He would
Yeah.
have to
And
bring
Frasier
a Jim
went well.
along, though.
He would
because
still need someone like
no,
Jim.
it would be Angela, and then he'd have Mose. Mose was the best.
Well, but they're
No one would watch it,
they're
though,
all
because-
too wacky. You need a straight
Yeah.
man.
Uh-huh.
You need a straight
Okay,
man.
I'm
yeah.
sure they'd find somebody.
Someone
but
for everyone to really love. Not
but there
just
was
to laugh
enough
about.
weird people
No, I know.
in that.
But it's you need a
He
foil.
would be the normal one. He would become the normal one. Mose would be the weird one. And then Angela. You know,
Yeah.
the guy that played Mose, he was one of the producers of The Office, and he hated it. They always were like, okay, you're going to be Mose in this. He's like, ugh. He hated it so bad.
Yeah.
He said he always got hurt every time. And it was always
Physical
hot.
comedy.
Like,
Yeah.
he always... I watched a whole thing about it. He hated it, but he did such a great job. I loved it so
No,
much.
did you see Shrek? I think it was 4, where Rumpelstiltskin was in it. Did you see that one?
Not really. I
just the
think you
funny,
have kids.
Just really quick, just the funny thing about that is that one of the writers was like, "No, you got to do it like this," and he would like, "Oh, I'm Rumpelstiltskin," and like he would like do the voice and everything, and he's like would be in the like writers' room like jumping up and down and stuff, and then eventually they're just like, "You need to play that part." And so he's not even an actor or anything. They just like he's
It's
just
like
one
Larry
of the writers.
David.
Yeah.
And Seinfeld, when he would always throw himself in as the New York Yankees, whatever head, George.
Steinbrenner.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Anyway,
you never
back-
saw his face. It was just his voice. Well, I think that rarely is there a show that has a sequel on, like a TV
Yeah.
series that actually is successful. They've tried it with like Arrested Development and it did horribly.
Yeah.
Did you guys ever see the new ones?
We saw some of them.
They're
I
so
don't know.
dumb.
They seem to like. I don't know if our standards got higher or if theirs got lower. But I just feel like I don't want to watch this. It's a little too raunchy.
Yeah, it wasn't that great.
Yeah.
The only one that I have seen that's been successful is honestly Frasier with Cheers.
What about you, Emily? Can you think of any show that was successful after it got rebooted?
No.
No.
I just think that The Office, they're going to try to come back and like it's not going to be funny.
Do you know what the worst example was ever of anything?
What?
So you remember the movie Willow?
Yeah.
George Lucas movie, by the way.
Loved Willow.
So they rebooted it on Disney Plus as like a TV show.
Mm-hmm.
It was so bad. There was no second season, obviously, and they took it down. Like you can't even watch it anymore.
Because
That's how bad it was.
It's embarrassing to them.
Yeah.
It
And
should
like,
be.
I mean, have you seen the crap that's on that, network? Anyway, I
I
think,
know we've talked about this before. I'm not sure if we've talked about this on the show or not, but I just feel like the creativity is like lagging in Hollywood. They just have nothing.
Yeah.
They've got nothing, so they keep
Because they're not allowed to make whatever jokes they want and say whatever things. It's just a censorship.
Yeah. Well,
It gets less and less funny.
Well, do you know there's a new Back to the Future coming out?
no.
I was surprised. So Bryce sent me the YouTube video. You can look it up, but it has you'll never guess who plays Marty or his son, I should say.
Marty's son, Tom Holland.
How'd you knew?
No, I didn't.
He looks
That
exactly.
was a pure guess.
He looks.
Wow.
He looks exactly like him. Like they had
Yeah.
him wearing the same vest and everything.
Right.
And I had a hard time like determining, is that Michael J. Fox or is that Tom Holland? They look so
really
much
funny.
alike. And Michael J. Fox is in it and Doc is in it. And it's like,
Christopher Lloyd.
and Christopher Lloyd, yeah.
Yeah, Doc,
He's in it. Doc.
Sorry, I'm going back to why things aren't creative and funny anymore. I think it's because people can't be funny and creative or creative when they're afraid.
True.
Right? Can you imagine being very funny if you were legitimately afraid? It's only when people despite circumstances,
I'm always funny. So
you're never afraid.
No,
That's
I
what
am
it means.
afraid.
Yeah.
But I don't care.
Well, you compartmentalize it.
Yes.
You overcome your fear.
Right.
Yeah, I
Well,
guess.
so
I
that's the
don't know.
thing. That's what courage is. Courage is not
No, I'm just not funny. I was joking.
it's not the absence of fear. It's overcoming fear. It's despite the fear, still doing what it is you want to do. I think it's a confluence of things because, I mean, obviously there's the woke mind virus and there's the fear of like bad press or whatever.
Cancel culture.
Cancer culture, all those things. But at the same time, like I got kind of convinced. There's an interview with Quentin Tarantino where he was talking about, he's like, well, but look at the movies in the early 90s, like, and how safe they were and how you just say, oh, you can't make a movie like that. But meanwhile, he's making Reservoir Dogs, Pulp Fiction, From Dusk Till Dawn. I mean, these movies were like, they really pushed the envelope, way beyond what anybody would say is like a movie that you can make in Hollywood. And he did it, it just, you need people who are willing to just stand up to the mob. And there are movies out there that do well. They're just, the big studios just aren't doing it,
I don't think that's the reason why there's not any good stuff coming out.
Why do you think it is?
I'd rather not say.
Okay.
I'll tell you after.
Well, I'll tell you another reason why I think it is that it's, they're just looking for safety, right? Because if you're going to spend $300 million on a movie,
You want to make sure it makes a
you
profit.
want to make sure it makes a profit, so
I'll
it's
tell
like,
you what the worst ones are. DC.
yeah,
They're the
It's like-
worst. You know why? They spend most of the money on effects
yeah,
and not enough on character development.
yeah, not enough on good writing. It seems so weird to me because it's like, compared to the other costs in a movie, how much could it possibly cost to buy a good script? To get a good script writer? Like, even if you have to spend a couple years in development, writing and rewriting, getting other people in it, and like making sure that it's a coherent plot and all these things, like it seems like the easiest thing to do in a vacuum before you're committed.
Where's J.J. Abrams been? He does good movies. I haven't
He made
seen
a-
anything that he's done in a long time.
Wasn't one of the
Everything
new
he's
Star
made, I've
Wars
liked.
No,
garbage?
it was a Star Trek.
Oh, but
That's what
didn't
he
he
did.
didn't make one of the new Star Wars?
Yeah, I think he did one.
Yeah,
But his, like almost every single one of his movies,
maybe he's older stuff. I
like.
don't know.
I mean, well, he did TV series, right?
Yeah.
He did Lost. He did
Prison Break.
Prison Break, which is my
Didn't he do
fave.
Alias also?
Yeah, he did Alias. He did all those Fox
Oh,
ones.
right,
And I
yes,
think
yeah.
he did do Star Wars because that was his dream. Or, well, no, his was to do Steven Spielberg.
Mm.
Oh, I remember one that he did. J.J. Abrams. Super 8.
Oh yeah, that was a movie. Yeah, it's about those kids. It's like kind of a thriller, not like a scary thriller, but like an adventure, like
Yeah.
Stranger Things
It
kind of
was
thing.
kind of like the old Steven Spielberg movies like E.T., which is like Stranger Things. But
Yeah,
what was your favorite Steven Spielberg movie?
I don't know. Jurassic Park, I guess.
Really?
I don't know.
I loved Goonies when I was a kid.
Oh,
So what all did he do? E.T., Goonies, Jurassic Park, what else?
Stand By Me.
oh yeah.
He did tons.
Such a little kid when all that was popular.
Joe's pulling it up right now.
Who's your favorite director?
I just said.
Steven Spielberg?
He's up there.
J.J. Abrams.
Yeah, I like
Yeah.
he's mine. Who's yours? You can take it.
Probably Ridley Scott.
I also like John Hughes, the old John Hughes movies. Like Breakfast Club and
Oh yeah.
the old coming of age in
Breakfast
my
Club,
day.
The 16 Candles.
Yeah, I mean they're kind of raunchy, but
Yeah.
I
Oh.
loved.
Okay, so here are the highlights for Spielberg. Jaws, Close Encounters of the Third Kind, Raiders of the Lost, so all the Indiana
Yeah,
Jones movies,
those best.
E.T., The Color
You're
Purple,
listening to this, Emily? You're asking what he's done.
Empire of the Sun,
Mm.
I liked
uh,
that one.
Hook.
You know who's
That
in
was
that
a good one.
Empire of the Sun?
Brad Pitt.
Brad Pitt, yeah, I know. That's
No,
why
you know
I
who
said-
else?
Christian Bale.
That's right.
Really?
He's the little kid.
Sorry.
That's
I
funny.
actually didn't even remember that Brad Pitt was in it. It's that when I saw it, I liked Christian Bale, who was a little kid, and I was a little kid.
Yeah. So like, was he in Newsies too, right?
Right.
Yeah. Or was it Swing Kids, or was it
Yeah,
both?
he's
Both.
in Swing Kids.
Yeah.
I love that movie.
Jurassic Park, Schindler's List, that was a big one, obviously. Amistad, Saving Private Ryan. Man, he's got a lot of hits.
When you guys watched Schindler's
Oh, here's
List,
another one.
did you make out in the theater during Schindler's?
That's a Seinfeld reference, everybody. We didn't do that.
Would it be worse or better if we aren't Jewish? If we aren't Jewish.
If you're making out during Schindler's List?
Yeah.
I don't think it matters. It's
I think
it's
either
the
way,
same,
it's less sacred.
whether you're Jewish or
Yeah.
not.
it's bad for different reasons, I think. Saving Private Ryan, Minority Report.
That was a good one.
That was a great one. It's a Philip K. Dick book. Catch Me If You Can. It's
That's
good.
all right.
Terminal. Yeah. War of the Worlds. This is, another Indiana Jones. Horse Lincoln. Did you see Lincoln? I never saw that.
Mm-hmm.
I think of all the movies that you just listed, or that he did, Minority Report's the best one.
Yeah.
No, it's not.
Yeah, it is.
That's
Has the best ideas.
Yeah.
It's the best one maybe for this time period.
I think.
But his 80s movies were so good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The adventure ones like Indiana Jones and
Right.
Yeah.
Close
He
Encounters.
did E.T., you guys said?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So E.T. was the only movie that we had. It was VHS. And we had our VCR, and we
Yeah.
had antenna. You know what I mean? TV. This is like for kind of a long time. And so E.T. was the movie I saw hands down the most times.
Oh, really?
Maybe even still to this day. Because
Wow.
as an adult, you don't keep rewatching the same
No.
movies
Right.
that much, you know?
Right.
No.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Once you get it.
What's a movie that you would watch over and over again?
When I was younger,
Just
Or
now.
just now?
Like you'd be like, oh, I'll watch
like
it.
my comfort movie, I would watch Tombstone. I think that's my
I
favorite
need to
movie.
watch that one again. I love that movie. I
Yeah.
got 2 guns, one for each of you.
Yeah, so many good lines.
That's my Val
Like a
Kilmer.
comfort movie that, because now I hardly ever just sit down and watch it because I'll just fall asleep. But to have on around me is Lord of the Rings, with one exception, and that's all the freaking orc noises.
Fast forward the
Takes
orcs.
all the comfort out of it.
That would put me to sleep.
But you like the
'Cause
wonder.
It's so the music.
Yeah,
I
the
know,
music.
but then it's intermittent. So you start to fall asleep to the music, and then those the orc noises pop up. It's like disgusting.
I would watch. I would watch any of the original Star Wars again.
Mm. Yeah.
I would watch
They're really good
Shawshank
comfort
Redemption,
movies.
Yeah.
my all-time favorite movie, and I would watch. It's called Razor's Edge. You should watch it.
I
It's
have
so
Sounds
good.
familiar.
It's a Bill Murray, but it's like a serious movie for him.
Mm.
And then one kind of, I'm not a chick flick person. I guess rom-com is what they call it nowadays. But this is one I will watch over and over again because it makes me laugh so hard, is the one with Hugh Grant and Sandra Bullock, 2 Week Notice.
Never heard
I've
of
seen
it.
that one, but it's funny because when you said rom-com, I thought she's probably going to name a Sandra Bullock movie.
Yeah, well, it's with, she's a liberal and he's a conservative.
Mm.
And that's why it's funny to me because she's like this environmentalist lawyer
Mhm.
and he's this corporate, he's like a Trump figure.
Yeah.
And he hires her and he's so annoying. Like he calls her for every little thing. And as she goes and like helps him with all these, anyway, it's just such a funny
Yeah.
movie.
What was the name of that Sandra Bullock movie with, I can't remember his name.
Keanu Reeves.
No.
No, it's where she falls in love with her fiance's brother when
Right,
her
when-
fiance's in a coma.
Oh.
What
While
was
you
that?
were sleeping.
While you're sleeping.
Oh, yeah.
I thought you were gonna say Sandra Bullock and Ryan Reynolds.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, what's that one? When they're in Alaska.
The Proposal.
Yeah.
That
yeah.
one has the blinds that I wish we had in our
Yeah,
house.
that's the thing I
Is that what we
think
do
about
now,
the
Emily?
most.
When we watch movies, we look at the decorations and stuff.
It's not the
It
decorations.
was
It's the
total
fact that
blackout because they're in Alaska, so it's like sunny all like half the year. You know.
It's like a lifelong
have those
pursuit.
blinds?
No,
No, I wish we
it's the
did.
blinds. I always think, how am I going to get those blinds someday? I
They're
have
like-
to.
with a remote, and then it just
Yeah.
like closes off.
And it's so fast. You know, you can sleep anytime, presumably if you could also make it quiet.